Asma Khan, restaurateur, chef, supporter of small business, mother, wife. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Bloomberg Equality Summit. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
I'd actually like to start by saying congratulations on your new restaurant opening. And that must be a very exciting time for you right now.
It is exciting, but it's also very challenging. You get this feeling, that things are normal, but they may just go downhill very fast. I'm just determined to be as positive as I can. And just, at the end of the day, I'm just grateful to have traded and been open for the day.
Absolutely. And actually, I'd like to ask you, because I was reading about you finding this new site, I was quite shocked to read that despite having a successful track record in the industry, a successful business, future bookings, it was actually very difficult for you to secure a site. Why was that?
I can only look at it now and imagine and realize that, I didn't pick up, when I'm quite sensitive about these things, when every time a landlord, for 2 years almost, kept telling me that there was no suitable site. They meant I didn't have the suitable boy, which in my culture is a man in the suit. Because they did keep asking me, do you have venture capitalist money? Do you have a business partner? And it wasn't that I didn't have the money. I clearly did have the money. And, and I had, guaranteed future earnings because my bookings were full. But no one even showed me a place, telling me that the place was not suitable. I was not suitable. And it took a pandemic. It took a global pandemic. It needed men to fail. It needed, big chains to collapse. For a landlord to get back to me and say, we have a lot of properties. Would you be interested in seeing one?
I mean, that's remarkable. I read this quote. I have to read it out because it really struck me. When you found this site where you now have your restaurant, you said to the lady who showed it to you, you have to give me this place. You have to give this place to me, not for me, but for everyone who has ever felt marginalized in life and who has felt they don't count. Pretty powerful. Is that how you felt on the journey to get this site?
Yes. At that point, I had realized that, this is that moment when, the chessboard is cleared and every piece has been removed. And I was going to come back as queen. And as queen, I was going to represent every female founder, every single female founder who didn't have that suitable boy standing next to her, who felt that she didn't count. And this goes beyond my accented voice, my Muslim name, the color of my skin. I could have been anyone. This is to do with being a female. And the fact that I have no idea why so many men think they're picking a football team or they're in Mortal Kombat and they're going to get the kind of person they can immediately relate to. Self-selection is deeply damaging for women because invariably the person making that decision is a man in a suit.
Asma, let's talk a little bit about the Rose Review that was conducted in 2019 by Alison Rose, CEO of RBS. The central finding in that report was that the single biggest issue holding female entrepreneurs back at every stage of their journey was a lack of funding. Has that been your experience?
Absolutely. It's always about money. And the thing is that it is so subtle. It's like, it's not an even race. Female founders are jumping hoops no one else is jumping. So in the race to get money, in the race to get sites, which I have experienced myself, we have to do so much more. We are always last in the line. We never end up winning because we have run a different race. We're working with this kind of very obvious and overt discrimination, very subtle, sly, discrimination. It's working at so many levels. And I've also unfortunately heard a lot of cases where there is that occasional woman on the panel. She doesn't often stick up for a female applicant coming in to ask for money because they don't want to be seen like, oh, I'm weak. I've got to be as tough as the men. Problem is success is seen in male terms. So even the few women who are in positions of power where they can decide or help decide who gets money, who doesn't get money, they don't fight for women. They see themselves very much like a suit. And that is what really is our problem. It will not resolve by having, tokenism of having few women on the board, few women as, representatives. This is beyond, you can't just tick a box and say, women are going to have an easier time getting money because we've got a female on the board. It doesn't work that way. The reality on the ground is you actually need people to make a conscious, hard effort to actually make sure that women get the support that men get so easily.
You said it was in a lot of subtle ways. What did you realize post-event? How did you realize you were discriminated against? And also, do you think it was also because you were a minority, an ethnic minority?
I would like to think it's not because of being an ethnic minority. It could also be a factor. But the other thing is that, one issue that there is in a country like England, it's in America, in a lot of places, if you don't go to school and college, and it's not the right school and college, if you're wearing the wrong kind of tie and you're wearing brown shoes and people don't see you as fitting in with their club, when it comes to decisions like this, like a very Mayfair all-boys club, they are the ones making the decision. So yes, being an ethnic minority also plays into it. But not being one of the boys, not hanging around, not going to play golf, not going to the pub and, having drinks with the boys, and not finding their jokes funny because some of them are unacceptable. So it is, my ethnicity, it does play a role, but I think being a woman who hasn't actually been through the kind of, background that so many of these men who are powerful have been through, I am the outsider. But I don't think I'm just the outsider for my ethnicity. I think a lot of women find themselves as outsiders. And the moment you have children, you're older, you're not willing to put up with a lot of nonsense, and you're not willing to smile and grin and bear it, you then do become the outsider. It is a huge problem for all of us because, all of us lose. Not just the woman who's not being able to break through, not just the woman who's being kept outside the door, who's not got a chair on the table. And I tell women, you're not invited to the table, pull a chair and sit down. We need to do this. The reason why I'm talking about this, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you and through you to so many women and men who are listening to this, that, you can actually be the game changer. If you are in a position of power, open the doors for others. Rise above your instinct and your own prejudice. That is our problem, that, we are kept out and the world loses out. The future generation of young women don't have more role models and mentors to look at because, again, it is that all male, group. That's powerful.
Yeah, so let me ask you then, what needs to change? Where does the change come from? Is it spearheaded by government? Is it institutions? Is it women themselves? The Rose Review found that women didn't have such good awareness of funding, and also they were less likely to take on debt. Do women themselves also need to change and be a bit more gutsy in some ways and just go for it like men would go for it?
The thing is that, I'm hesitant to start by pushing the onus on the women, that, you need to actually be also aware. And, I had a disastrous interview when I went for my first site. They almost grilled me alive, I was smart. I played on my, I went and served them lunch. And while they were eating, I kind of distracted them with prawn malai curry and they couldn't answer the questions that were relentlessly being thrown at me by the directors, asking me about my turnover, my business plan. And I found I was very intimidated. But then I played on my strengths and I kept feeding them hot samosas. It's very hard to speak when you're eating. And, in the end, they kept quiet. But I think the problem is that really we need a joint up, kind of process where it has to be all of it. It has to be women, it has to be institutions, it has to be governments, because the thing is, if you look back at history, how did terrible things, colonialism, slavery, apartheid, when women couldn't vote, you needed the brave voices to call out. You needed that woman to say, I'm not getting off my seat on the bus. This is how segregation eventually ended. It's not going to end by just someone putting on a light bulb. It won't work that way. It works only when a lot of us start speaking up. History is evidence. Terrible things ended because some people were brave, and those that were silent stopped being silent. So it is a whole process. It is a ripple effect. It's not going to happen just, by one person putting up their hand and saying, please, can we stop this? Because it works in so many different layers, from the very small things like, a woman applying for a little loan, being refused a mortgage because, you're a single mother, all of this to much deeper things where people, don't get selected for sites. Then, of course, much bigger things where you lose out on big contracts because you were the female who turned up and they decided to play safe and go with a man. So it's working at so many levels. The solution also has to be at many levels.
I couldn't agree more. Final question to you, Asma. Where do you get your sense of belief from? And do you still ever have that, or did you ever have that imposter syndrome feeling at all?
I know I should have the imposter syndrome feeling. I don't. I feel I belong.
I hope you don't.
I feel I belong. No, I don't. I feel I deserve everything that's happened because the thing is, I see this beyond myself. I see myself as representing the marginalized, the silent. And the fact that I'm on stage, even now when I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking and I know this is when the spotlight hits me, but I see ahead of me a room full of women who are sitting in the darkness, who are not going to get this opportunity I have had to speak to you. So at every moment, I'm driven by this passion and need to communicate, to amplify the voices that will never get on stage. I want that woman to know, you are me, I speak for you, and one day you will speak for me. And I think that is really important for me. And that is what drives me. I'm driven every day, every dawn I see, it's another day where I can do something for someone else. This is beyond my success. I will not enjoy my freedom if I see women around me in chains. My victory will be to see women doing better. And I also want to clear the pathway, remove the hurdles that scarred me, on which I fell, on which I failed. So another woman, the next generation coming up, won't even see the hurdle. That is what drives me.